Welcome back to Star Narratives, the podcast. This is accessible and relatable astrology that teaches you how to support your emotional health using the wisdom of the zodiac. I'm your host, Natha Campanella. Hi, you guys. It's Natha. I am here launching the Libra episode, and I'm excited to put this one out into the world. Libra is such an interesting sign. Libra rules by being nice, by pleasantries, and by knowing how to ease into a situation to get needs met. And that's a real skill if we know how to use it. And we don't rest too heavily on being nice, because as we know, that sometimes doesn't get us what we need. Libra is also really relational. So anytime we're in Libra season, anytime that we're talking about the planet Libra, how it lands in our chart, we are talking about our relationships with people. And, we are doing some interesting relationship work right now collectively as we move closer into the US elections, and we have so much back and forth. Everybody's on one side or another. Everybody's arguing. Everybody's very frustrated if you don't believe what I believe, or, I love my family, but we don't see eye to eye. And there are all of these things that always pop up around elections, but they do seem to be louder right now. And maybe that's because we've had such a stressful year. We have all of this stress built into our nervous systems. So I just wanted to tell you about a reading package that I offer, which is called the Family Dynamics Reading Package. And it's a package of 3 readings when we can look at anybody's chart in your family that you want. As long as you can get a birth date and a birth location and ideally a birth time, we can get in and really look at the dynamics between you and somebody else, whether it's your mother, your father, your child, your partner. It doesn't really matter. But if you're wanting to get a handle on what it is that you're here to learn from each other, these readings are great. So we've been cooped up, many of us, for months with our kids, not going to school. So this can be a real interesting reading for working with your kids, figuring out what your kids need from you, figuring out how to make the most of the situation. And, same is true for those people in our family that we're struggling with. And that's why I love astrology. It is such a cool tool. It's like consulting an elder. You don't have to get a bunch of judgment. You don't have to get riled up. You don't have to, get super frustrated by what you hear. It's all this information that feels like a balm. And I have done several, especially child readings over the last few months with parents who have been struggling with their kids. And I swear these people leave the readings and it's like they just have so many tools to use. They understand their kids better. They understand themselves as parents better. So anyway, I thought while we were in Libra season, it would be a great time to tell you guys that I do offer that in as a reading package. You can, of course, find all of the information, everything that you get, and the pricing on nathacampanella.com. And I think without further ado, let's start talking about some Libra. Welcome to Libra. Libra is a cardinal air sign and is ruled by the planet Venus and belongs traditionally in the 7th house. So as with all of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, Libra is a leader. Libra represents one of the 4 pillars, really, of human experience, which is relationship with other. And so we will often look to our Libra placements to determine where we need to work on relationships in our life, where they are highlighted. And of course, some of the problems that may arise and some of the natural ease and flow that we may have been gifted with. And Libra is a sign that appreciates ease and flow. It's an air sign. Like all of the air signs, which are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, we're talking about relationship in some respect. So with Libra, we're often talking about intimate partnership, which usually means, a marriage, a lover, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, but can also relate to people that we're just really close with. Libra is known as the peacemaker, the peacekeeper. Libra people have a reputation of being very easy, of being very sort of go with the flow, maybe a little bit indecisive, very adaptable, very beautiful. And I would say that those are all descriptions that are true. One of the ways that Libra rules as a Capricorn sign is by being very charming and being able to really flow with what's there. So Libra does not love drama. I mean, there are certain kinds of drama that Libra thrives on, like gossip or like sort of, the social drama that can show up. But on the other hand, Libra doesn't like a lot of anger, divisiveness, and Libra will tend to be indecisive, especially if there are two different sides that are going to be upset with a decision. But Libra is also very, very good at sort of smoothing the fur, smoothing the feathers, making sure that everybody has what they need, which is why Libra has a reputation of sort of being a little duplicitous, is that, one person, Libra is making peace with one person in one way, making peace with another person in another way, and those might be conflicting. But that is how Libra rules. That is how Libra is diplomatic. Is that there's a skill in being able to make everybody happy. Part of that is because Venus is the ruler, and Venus is about beauty and abundance. So Venus also rules Taurus. Interestingly enough, Taurus and Libra don't really understand each other very well, but they do have a common thread of abundance, of beauty, of comfort. And you can go back and listen to the Taurus episode if you want more about Taurus. But Venus, as a ruler of Libra, is very much about attracting what we want. And that attraction, we do that through being beautiful, through being tactful and thoughtful and very refined and relatable. So there's this idea of, how do I get what I want from this person without asking for it? And so there can be this whole seduction that occurs with Libra people that we may not even be noticing. We might not even realize is happening. And you can look to the Libra placements in your chart. So look for the planets that are in the sign of Libra. Look for what is happening with Venus. What connections is Venus making? And then you can also look at what's happening in the 7th house. And those will all give you a very good idea of how you personally are working with Libra in this lifetime. Not everybody is going to have a lot of Libra, but we all have Libra and Venus and a 7th house. So these are all themes that will show up for all of us regardless. So there's this thing that happens with our Libra placements because we're trying to please, because we're trying to avoid upsetting people. Upset people don't tend to do what we want them to do, right? And so with our Libra placements, and I see this when I'm working with clients a lot who have a strong Libra influence in their chart, is that they oftentimes will sort of ignore their own boundaries. They will do things, they will agree to do things that they don't really want to do because they just don't want the hassle of saying no. or of, not doing what somebody wants them to. And that in some ways will work, right? In some ways it will get them what they need and what they want. It will buy them time. It will buy them peace. It will create a sense of ease. But what ends up happening in the long term is that Libra people begin to feel really put upon and taken advantage of. And when that happens, then some of the darker sides of Libra can come out, which look like gossip, right? Triangulation, where there's a lot of going behind somebody's back and just talking, trash about them. There's a lot of judgment that can show up. And that is why sometimes you will see like Libra represented as like sort of that mean girl archetype, right? Like the popular girl. I with our Libra placements, we do go towards being beautiful, towards being aesthetic, because that is one way to pull people to us. And Libra people tend to be popular in their circles. And that can, when thrown off balance, that can really turn into being mean. And not just coming out and saying what the problem is, but rather sort of talking around the issue. Because confrontation is not a real Libra thing. So that's something just to be mindful of as you're exploring your own Libra placements. What happens when you are not able or not willing to set a boundary? How long can you go without starting to get very resentful and acting out through gossip or through some of these other ways that Libra can get? So when we're talking about relationship with our intimate partners, Libra is about balance. And so when we're talking about this seventh house as an archetype, we're talking about, what is the environment that you bring into a relationship? What do you create in your relationships? How do you balance your needs with the needs of the partnership? And Aries is the sign that is right across from Libra in the zodiac. Aries belongs in the first house. Aries is very much about me, my needs. What happens when I'm alone and it's just me and I have to fend for myself? I have to assert my needs. I have to get what I want. That really changes when we enter into partnership with somebody, because then we have somebody else's needs to contend with. And then it becomes about us instead of just me. And that us is the Libra. And, part of what makes a successful relationship is this balancing of needs, this looking at, am I giving as much as I'm taking? And vice versa. Does my partnership feel equitable? Does it feel balanced? And if it doesn't, then you're going to begin to have those Libra issues where one person feels overworked and underpaid, to use an analogy. And Libra begins to get very feisty when the feeling is that the relationship is out of balance. So that's another thing to really think about. Whether you have a lot of Libra in your chart or whether you do, is just to have this question in your mind of your partnerships. Am I giving more than I'm taking? And what I find when I'm doing client work is that for the most part, especially, and this is a generalization, but I often think generalizations show up for a good reason. That women tend to take on more responsibility in the partnerships, especially if there are children. Women, women just do more labor, more emotional labor, more labor around the house in terms of cleaning and organizing. And, women also have pretty strong opinions and ideas about how they want things to go in their house. And that is also work to try to maintain and uphold those. And so you might notice that your partner sort of begins to take a back seat, whether through getting too many complaints about what they have done, or, simply by just realizing that if they don't do anything at all, you as a partner will do it for them. So always, you can look at the sign that's on your 7th house cusp. You can look at the planets that are in your 7th house, but you can get a good idea of the environment that you provide in partnership. And as always, we're looking at the problems that we can solve. We want to bring our partners in to solve the problems as well, but we have to first start with us, and we have to look at the environment that we provide. So if you are providing that environment where you're taking care of every single thing, and your partner is not doing much in return, that is something that you can start to change just for you, in terms of sort of beginning to back out, beginning to remember that with Libra, that you're striving for balance, because when things become out of balance is when the problems begin. Communication is also connected to Libra. It's connected to air signs in general. There's a communication piece that's really important. There's a cooperation piece. So, you want to remember that you have power. Our Libra placements are very, very powerful, even though they sort of lead in a very subtle, sort of around the corner kind of way. Know that if there are changes that need to be made, a rebalancing, so to speak, of our partnerships, that you can begin that. You're the one that's listening to this. You're the one that's having these thoughts. So you're going to have to begin. And part of that is around noticing those places where you just give in because you want to keep the peace. And it's not about necessarily starting arguments, but it is about sort of reorganizing your Aries sense of loyalty to yourself, and then asserting what you need in a way that your partner can hear it, to begin to bring more equilibrium in. Because Libra really does like harmony, and that's one of the really beautiful things about Libra, is Libra, you can tell the Libra people out in the world, they create beauty, whether they're artists, whether they're just simply in the clothes that they wear. There is this elegance that comes along with Libra, and we can all learn a lot from that elegance. And a lot of times elegance is how we get what we want, what we need, and everybody feels good about it. So these are all some interesting thoughts to be holding in your mind as we're considering Libra. One more thing to just be aware of when we're talking about Libra is the tendency to be self-absorbed. Because, Libra is very, in our culture, where beauty is so important, where we are so praised for being lovely and being aesthetic, it can be easy to slip to the other side of being self-absorbed, of being superficial. Libra isn't a sign that loves to go very deep. It's easier to rest on the surface. And this is really true of all of the air signs. And of course, if you look at the zodiac, the sign that comes right after Libra is Scorpio, where we do go deep. And that is true of astrology, as we navigate through the zodiac wheel, the sign that comes after the sign always kicks away the energy. So Scorpio says, forget this superficial stuff, we're going deep. But while we're in Libra, we can be very superficial. And so we want to just be mindful of that, because it isn't that interesting after a while. And Libra does want to be interested. And you can support yourself by just noticing when you've lost the balance between I love beauty, I appreciate beauty, I want peace, I want everybody to love me, I want a beautiful world and a beautiful experience, into it's all about me, the way that I look is all that matters, I must be attractive, I must make a lot of money, and I mean, these goals are not wrong, but it can get really boring after a while. And air signs do not like boredom. Air signs get very, very restless with boredom. The heady nature of air just needs new stimulation in all the time. And there's stimulation that can be really exhilarating and really enriching for our relationships. And then there's stimulation that can just be flat, that sort of leaves us with nothing really to chew on. So I think that is it for Libra. And coming up next is Scorpio. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to work with me privately or read more about all of the numerous ways to work with me, visit my website, natacampanella.com. I really appreciate any time that you take to leave a review of this podcast on any of the platforms that you listen on. It helps other people to find it. And of course, if you enjoy this podcast, share it widely and freely with those that you know and love. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.